All right, guys, we got to talk about a few different states here who have some primary elections starting tomorrow, I believe. We got to talk about Texas, we got to talk about Arkansas, and we got to talk about North Carolina. Okay, we're not going to talk about every single race in all of those states. Obviously, that would be way too long of a video to go over everything, but we're going to talk about some of the bigger races in some of these states. And unfortunately, some of them are a little lackluster, to say the least, right? Lackluster. But nonetheless, we still got some races to win. So let's dive into it and talk about it. First up, we have Texas Senate race, or Senate primary, between Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, and Wesley Hunt. I'm going to play a couple of clips from each of these individuals, and let's get into it. So first up is Ken Paxton with none other than the late, great Charlie Kirk. Check it out.
Charlie Kirk knew Ken Paxton.
Or not.
White House, and we can't trust him in the Senate.
Was a conservative warrior.
Joining us is one of the best attorney generals in the country.
Has some technical difficulties there. I apologize, guys. Hold on. There we go. All right.
Charlie Kirk knew Ken Paxton was a conservative warrior.
Joining us is one of the best attorney generals in the country. He's a terrific American patriot. Ken Paxton from the great state of Texas. You have this fire-breathing, amazing, Constitution-loving Texan attorney general who's doing a great job. Ken Paxton, who's a great American patriot.
You have done a fantastic job.
Ken Paxton, we're behind you 100%.
Ken Paxton, the Turning Point Action endorsed leader to fight for Texas.
So there's Ken Paxton. Obviously, Charlie Kirk was a fan. I personally am a fan. So yeah, I'm a little biased. I'm just going to be completely honest. And now we have John Cornyn. I'll play this clip here. Check it out.
Cornyn has been a senator since 2003. His first major bill, amnesty for illegals. Since then, he's backed amnesty 11 times.
It's true.
11 times. He called President Trump's border wall flawed and naive and supported a path to citizenship, letting illegals vote. Who is John Cornyn fighting for?
Cornyn, hope I don't get you in trouble mentioning your name.
He isn't fighting for us.
Yeah, John Cornyn is someone who I consider a rhino. He has a Liberty score of an F. Let me see. Where did I put the... oh, here we go. I'm going to throw that up on the screen here in just 1 second so you guys can see that as well. So you don't have to just take my word for it. There it is. Liberty score of an F, John Cornyn. Not somebody that you want still in the Senate. Of course, terrible. Absolutely terrible. The way that I see it, anybody with less than a B, they have to go. They have to go. You know, I understand not completely voting with the Republican Party 100%. All right, whatever, you know. Okay, you're going to have some disagreements. But if you got anything less than a B, you got to get the boot. And he is well below a B. Okay, an F, 54%. Half the time he votes with the GOP. All right, so not somebody you want. Now let's move on to Wesley Hunt, who... This guy, man, I genuinely liked Wesley Hunt. I did. I really did. And then this move just put a bad taste in my mouth. But check him out.
Wesley Hunt didn't vote for President Trump, but Wesley Hunt did say he has no regrets about voting for Hillary Clinton.
That's a fact.
Wesley Hunt even admitted he voted for Obama, saying President Obama is actually why somebody like me even exists. Wesley Hunt voted to put Clinton and Obama in the White House, and we can't trust him in the Senate.
The backstabbing rhino Republicans.
Lone Star Liberty
I was able to confirm that he did, in fact, vote for Hillary Clinton, and he basically said he didn't regret it. Okay, that is a fact. But, you know, Wesley Hunt, nonetheless, like I said, is somebody that I genuinely liked for quite a while, and I've spoken about him and shown you guys videos of him. But then this whole hopping into this Senate race in like the 10th hour, it just put a bad taste in my mouth because Ken Paxton had announced he was running against John Cornyn a long, long time ago. He has been announced this. And it got to the point where Ken Paxton was trouncing John Cornyn in the polls. I mean, absolutely mollywhopping him. And then Wesley Hunt hopped in, and then the race became a little bit tighter. So that just put a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, something ain't right about this, brother. You know, something is off here. As well as he has a, hold on, let me see. Is this the video? Check this out.
Wesley Hunt talks a big game about supporting President Trump.
My loyalty to the president and the America First movement is really important.
But when President Trump in Texas needed Wesley's vote to fund ICE and Border Patrol, Hunt left town. When Texas needed Wesley's vote to pay our troops, Hunt didn't show. When Texans needed relief from high housing costs, Hunt clocked out. When House Republicans needed every vote to advance President Trump's agenda, Hunt was a no-show. Wesley Hunt, a no-show for Texas.
That has been one of the major criticisms of Mr. Wesley Hunt, is that he's often a no-show on a lot of these votes. And I don't know if that is a strategy to keep him off of the no-vote list, right? It's just, he just doesn't vote at all. But I do find that weird. I do find that if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, probably is a duck. You know, I hate to say that because once again, I really do like Wesley Hunt, but to me, he seems like a Rhino insider to me. That's just my personal opinion. You guys can let me know how you feel. To be missing a lot of these big major votes, a little questionable. To hop into the Senate race super late when Ken Paxton is clearly in the lead, little questionable. And it's not like Ken Paxton is a Rhino. John Cornyn is the Rhino. So why would you hop in to stymie Ken Paxton, who's defeating the Rhino? It just doesn't make any sense, you know? And why are you missing so many votes? Kind of questionable. All right, now let's move on to North Carolina, where we have another Senate race between Michael Whatley, who's the former RNC chair, and I forgot her name, Michelle Moreau. Now, this one's going to be pretty quickly because according to Polymarket, yeah, it is ugly. It's ugly. He's at 99% right now. Michelle Moreau is like less than a half of 1%. Less than a half of 1%. Tom Tillis is on this list, and he's not even running again. Tom Tillis is an absolute Rhino. Definitely don't want that guy. Not going to say I'm the biggest Michael Whatley fan either, and that's why I said it's a little lackluster. But, hey, at the end of the day, he's a Republican, and we're replacing a definite Rhino in Tom Tillis, so we shall see. The jury's still out. If I had to pick somebody, it probably wouldn't have been Michael Whatley, but that's what we have, so let's run with it and hope that he is a hell of a lot better than Tom Tillis has been for us thus far, all right? Because at the end of the day, the goal is to win, right? The goal is to win, and unfortunately, somebody like Michelle Moreau, is she further to the right? Absolutely, but she stepped in it a few times in the past, and as you guys can see, according to the betting markets, she virtually has no shot at winning that race. Okay. Actually, I skipped over somebody. Excuse me. As you guys can see, this is not scripted or put together by anybody. This is just me. I forgot about another Texas race between Dan Crenshaw. Matter of fact, let me pull up that race. Let's see. Is this it? Yes. We got another Senate race between Dan Crenshaw and a guy by the name of Steve Toth. Okay, now it looks like Dan Crenshaw is projected to win right here according to the betting markets, unfortunately. 75-28 currently as we speak. But at one point in time, it was basically 50-50 between Dan Crenshaw and Steve Toth. Now, as you guys can probably guess, I am not a Dan Crenshaw fan, and here's a couple of clips.
And when COVID happened, I know there was a large majority of guys, that even guys Dan had served with, that came to him like, hey, because they were kicking guys out for not taking the vaccine. They were asking him for help, like, hey, we're not going to take the vaccine. Can you help us? And his own words were, just take the jab and shut up.
When we reached out to him regarding our son being dismissed from the United States Army for refusal to take the jab, his response was not forthcoming at all. And we also heard public comment where he basically told people to shut up, and take the jab, don't complain.
Take the jab and shut up.
So they are talking about Dan Crenshaw. If you guys aren't familiar with who Dan Crenshaw is, it is this gentleman here in Congress, okay, out of the state of Texas. Yeah, so there you go. And, of course, President Trump has officially endorsed every Texas representative for re-election except for Congressman Dan Crenshaw. So even Uncle Trump knows Dan ain't great. Now, he did not endorse Steve Toth, and I assume that is because he doesn't think Steve Toth has the ability to beat Dan Crenshaw, but we shall see. We shall see. Hopefully, Steve Toth can, get over the finish line and beat Dan Crenshaw, because this guy here is, this guy's an absolute joke. This is Dan Crenshaw X account. Dr. Fauci is an American hero, and we are blessed to have him leading us in this fight. Yeah, anybody who says anything like that, I don't want him near Washington, D.C., me personally. So my guy would be Steve Toth. Let me see if I can actually put him up on the screen so you guys can see who this gentleman is. This is Steve Toth here. Here's a picture. Bam. Steve Toth for you, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get him to replace Dan Crenshaw, please? Here is his X account, Steve Toth, Texas, TX. Okay. If you care to screenshot that or pause it if you need to and go give him a follow. All right. Steve Toth, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Toth. And there's the Rhino Dan Crenshaw, of course, who just terrible. Absolutely terrible. So there you have it. There you have it. Unfortunately, Dan Crenshaw is projected to win. So, matter of fact, here, let me pull up Dan Crenshaw's Liberty score to show you guys that as well, so you understand why I say this isn't a great guy. C, not the worst score ever. Not the worst score ever, but unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. You are well below a B. No excuse for that. No excuse for that. You don't see Democrats voting this much against their own party, so why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Inexcusable. Inexcusable. Alrighty, let's move on to the last state of Arkansas, because we start off with Texas, then we move to North Carolina. Now we're on to Arkansas, where we have a race between, let me pull that up as well, Tom Cotton and Arkansas. Wait, what? What is this? Oh, this is Democrat. Jeez Louise. I was like, what? Okay. Republican. Goodness gracious. It's not even showing me. It's not showing me any races with. It's showing me the projected winner. Obviously, a Republican is projected to win that seat. 93% chance according to the betting. These are betting markets. These aren't actual polls. So note that as well. But we have Tom Cotton, who he's basically got it in the bag. All right. He's basically got it in the bag. This is Tom Cotton and what he recently had to say.
President Trump has the inherent power under our Constitution and as commander-in-chief to use military force to keep our nation safe. In this case, from the vast missile arsenal that Iran has and was expanding, much bigger than our missile defenses. And we've had presidents conduct this kind of operations going back to the beginning of our republic. For that matter, conduct them in the Middle East. Thomas Jefferson struck the Barbary pirates just off the coast of Libya more than 200 years ago without a vote in Congress. And speaking of Libya, Barack Obama toppled Muammar Gaddafi in Libya 15 years ago without a vote of Congress, even though he was a de facto American ally by that point. The difference is that President Trump is attacking a 47-year implacable enemy. President Trump.
So yeah, there's Tom Cotton defending Trump. Let me throw up his Liberty score here as well. I believe he's like right on the cusp of, yeah. So there's Tom Cotton with the Liberty score of a B. So right on that line, but he is above the line. He is above the line. So not the greatest choice in the world, but also not the worst. He's better than Dan Crenshaw. He's better than John Cornyn, right? Better than a lot of Republicans we have in our party. So all in all, matter of fact, here, let's see here. Yeah. Better than a lot of folks. Better than a lot of folks. Okay. Let's see. Mitch McConnell, for example, an F of 44%. 44%. Lindsey Graham, 43%. 43. Matter of fact, we're going to be talking about South Carolina here shortly as well because, as you can see, Lindsey Graham is up for re-election, and that score is unacceptable. So you could probably guess who I'm going to be supporting, and it ain't Lindsey Graham, all right? It ain't him. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about a couple of those races there. Texas, North Carolina, and Arkansas. So Tom Cotton in Arkansas for Senate, got to reelect him. Michael Wheatley in North Carolina, got to get him elected. I'm forgetting Steve Toth in Texas for Congress, got to get him elected over Dan Crenshaw. And who am I forgetting? Oh, Ken Paxton as well in Texas over Wesley Hunt and John Cornyn, which he's projected to win that right now as well. There also is a governor's race in Texas between Greg Abbott and I'm forgetting the gentleman's name, but to be quite honest, I don't think the guy is going to beat Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott he's got major endorsements. He's been the governor for a while. This will be his third term. I don't think Greg Abbott's going to lose. Is the guy better than Greg Abbott in my humble opinion? Yes, he's further to the right than Greg Abbott. But that also means in a general election, it's going to be harder to get him elected than it would be a Greg Abbott. So Greg Abbott's okay. I'm not mad at Greg Abbott being there. So I guess at the end of the day, the goal is to win, and Greg Abbott's okay. I don't see a path for the other gentleman to win. I can't think of his name right now. I'm drawing a blank. I apologize on that, but yeah. So let's get another Republican as governor of Texas, whether that's Greg Abbott or the other gentleman. Once again, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but let's make sure we get somebody across that finish line that is a Republican and keep the great state of Texas red. All right, stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.